All right, so let's get into more Binance news and maybe the effects on the market in general. I think this will be a good breakdown of understanding whether or not a black swan was nearly missed here, or is there something else looming out there for the crypto markets? We'll break it all down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. I want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Tangem. This is a good time, guys, to get into a self-custody wallet. These are the times in which all of us should be looking at our exchange balances and going, should I keep this on my exchanges? If I'm a long-term holder of any asset out there, consider going into Tangem. All you have to do is visit tangem.com. You can get over there into their self-custody wallet, and it's very simple. They ship you a nice set of cards. They're kind of cool and black. It works fantastic with their app, and all you have to do is use our code down below, and you'll get additional discounts. Use a 3-card set. It's the way to go. Trust me, you'll thank me later. All right, let's get into a couple of news stories here. Of course, one of the biggest things, of course, was CZ just cannot leave Twitter alone. He, of course, responded to his situation. And I won't read all this, but it's basically a love letter, it felt like, to the crypto industry. But also that, hey, he's considering staying around in this, providing, all this starts to clear up for him. But the point is that, he did some things wrong. He has admitted that, obviously, and is trying to right his ways, obviously with a $4 billion fine, $50 million fine, all these things coming at them pretty heavily. I want to get into a couple of interviews around the situation with Binance, because I think it has started to bring out all of the trads in TradFi, from Wall Street. Listen into this next clip right here from Squawk Box. Let me play this for you.
Where is it? What's the criminal component of it? Do you think there's jail time that's ever going to come in this? I think a lot of people are looking at this situation. They're looking at what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried, and while they're different, they're in the same sentence.
Oh, they are definitely in the same sentence. The criminal authorities are making it known that that there is serious felony exposure for participating in this industry. There's no excuse, and that's basically what they said. Now, they had great evidence with CZ saying, ask forgiveness, don't worry about asking permission, and very casually throwing off anti-money laundering restrictions. So I think this is a really big step.
All right, so I want to pause it there, because this is something that I think a lot of people might get confused, and that is, let's just remember the whole situation around Binance. Remember that CZ had been pretty much evading the U.S. in the open because he wasn't setting up a corporate office. Obviously, we saw the turmoil with Binance US. This was not something that could be pinned as the same kind of entity, I believe, as, say, a Coinbase or a Fidelity or others that clearly have very key connections here in the U.S. This is Binance. It's somewhat of a rogue nation out there. And I think this was the case. Now, for the fact that AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC became such of the focus of this whole case was very clear. And I think that's the thing that the feds were able to get him on. And I think it's just, it is what it is. Interesting that they, of course, have really kind of zoned in on that. Because remember, a lot of this is opening up kind of the coffers of what's happening inside Binance for AML and KYC information, especially around a lot of these transactions that were happening that were nefarious. So there's quite a bit yet to come, I think, coming down. Let me go back in.
Is this a good sign for the industry, or is this a sign that the industry was based on a lot of activity which was not, frankly, legal?
I think there's a lot of there was a lot of casualness about complying with the law in the industry. I think the industry is fundamentally going to remain sound, but this is a huge shakeup. This isn't going to mean that, Bitcoin really changes. Some are saying that this is a good sign for the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs by the SEC. And maybe this was an important step that had to happen.
What we're dealing with is a very early stage around what's happening. I want you just to think about, if you've been around in tech for a very long time, the birth of the internet, the birth of mobile, all those things that happened. And a lot of the Wild West nature that occurs in any upstart technology, I think was the same, no different really, because in many cases, there's not really a big clarity around regulation, but more importantly, there's not clarity around operational standards, because those are all being built pretty much as they fly the plane, not giving CZ or Binance any kind of rope here. I think what they did, obviously, based on what we're finding now, clearly wrong. But the key here is that you can't blame a whole industry because you got a few bad actors. This is going to happen in every tech breakout that we see. And the interesting thing is, does Wall Street now come in and kind of clean up the mess? Okay, hey, let's just remember, Wall Street has its own problems. So this isn't going to be one of those things that just easily jumps from one tree to the next. I want to go to this next tweet right here. This is Stuart Alderati. Of course, Binance resolution of anti-money laundering, etc. Violations is a necessary step in bringing crypto industry into compliance. Okay, yeah, for sure. AML exists. We know the Bank Secrecy Act exists. All of that is in play. And if you are going to operate in the United States, yeah, you got to play by those rules. Even if you don't have full clarity on the security aspect of tokens and those kinds of things, which is still a gray area, the very basis of running your business should be done. So I do agree with Alderati in that point. Another tweet right here. This, of course, Mr. Tom Emmer, been on our show before a couple times. Congress does not need to rewrite the laws that work in the crypto space. Yesterday's successful prosecution shows that when enforced, current laws are suitable. Yeah, we don't have to do this. Just understand that you don't and cannot claim that everything's a security, including your trading cards. Further into this was from Cryptopolitan. Couple of points here that I want to just make sure everybody understands. Amidst the recent departure we saw with CZ, a lot of things have happened. Obviously, we've got Richard Teng coming in. This transition of leadership is starting to occur. But they do still operate, meaning Binance is still the world's largest crypto exchange. So just remember that being the case. Other things that, when you think about in general, because I think a lot of people have looked at, well, is this a big exodus within Binance or the BNB token? Yeah, there's going to be some casualties within that. But I want you to think about the leadership team that's coming in. Here is Richard Teng right here. This is his experience at Binance. He's just been there 2 years. So he's pretty much been groomed. He was CEO of Singapore, head of MENA, head of Europe and MENA, then head of Asia, Europe, and MENA, then head of regional markets, and then now has taken over as CEO. So I want your opinions. Drop some comments down below. Do you feel like this is an event at all? Does it even matter for the future of crypto markets? Do we already kind of know that these bad guys exist? There's other nefarious characters out there around many sorts of entities within the crypto space, just as there is in fiat, just as there is in tech, just as there is in mobile, and every kind of thing you can imagine when technology is involved. But I'd love to get your, kind of your rundown on it. Also within this, they're saying around $500 million right here withdrawn post-CZ resignation, raising concerns about platform trust. I disagree with this. This is kind of crazy. If you look at the real data right over here from Dune Analytics, you can kind of see, here's the actual on-chain. Let me kind of zoom in on this a little bit to show you that net flow is pretty much, yeah, there's a little bit of bump here and there, but this is kind of normal everyday transactions within the Binance ecosystem. So I don't know if there's anything to see there. I think this is just one of those things. Now, sure, yeah, this is a big bombshell in terms of the amount of the fine, $4 plus billion, largest fine ever rendered, by the Fed. So this is a pretty big deal. Sentiment came in, bombshell news of CZ Binance stepping down after DOJ found him guilty. Opportunities may arise depending on how much FUD this causes. I don't know. I don't know that we're seeing any real major FUD. Bitcoin didn't move much. A lot of the markets kind of just went, meh, we're going to continue on. We know that this has been happening. Yeah, you should be cleaning up these kinds of transactions that are nefarious. That's the job of what we've got in place right now in the U.S. So I think it's a little bit of a nothing burger. CZ's exit, $4 billion fine could shape the future of crypto. Yeah, it's a possibility. A couple of points they hit on. JP Morgan says this eliminates potential systemic risk associated with hypothetical collapse of the exchange. That's true if, in fact, there was a all-in, kind of like with FTX, an all-in nefarious use case of the exchange by all sorts of bad guys. I don't know necessarily that was the case. I think there was a little bit of bad guys, just like there is in almost every bank out there. And then there was all the normal people. But that's how it works in these systems. Other things that were in this article, they kind of hit on this. Removal of one of the biggest overhangs for the industry. I consider this an orderly resolution. And then Mike Novogratz kind of chimed in on saying, yeah, this is going to be the case. Binance setting the U.S. regulators would be super bullish. So settling, I should say, with the U.S. regulators is super bullish. I think it's bullish in the context of, yes, bad things happen within these kinds of infrastructures around money. And yes, if our government is doing their job, if our Fed arms are doing their job and they're doing it right, they're going to catch the bad guys, at least hopefully. The cool thing is that this is blockchain. So now it's much more traceable. The fact that they're going to have open access to what's happening within Binance is going to be pretty interesting overall. Here was Elio coming in, big banks coming out, cheering on crypto after CZ's departure, almost as it were planned. I don't know. Do you guys think this is part of a nefarious scheme that, Wall Street wants to get back in, and, this is just one of the things in play and it needs to come out, because it doesn't feel like this is a real black swan. I know a lot of people thought, oh, this is a black swan, could happen. But I'd love to get your opinion on it. I don't necessarily see it. Yes, it's going to have some impact, but I think Binance continues on their way. Maybe they drop a notch down. Remember, there's a lot of difference between them and the nearest exchange, being Coinbase, in terms of capabilities. So I don't know. There's a couple of things playing out within this for sure. One other thing right here, strategic absence. On the contrary, the SEC now possesses a wealth of incriminating evidence against Binance stemming from the company's admissions in the DOJ plea. This evidence provides the SEC with powerful ammo to bolster its own investigations, so we're going to probably see that. And then the independent monitorships mandated. Now, this would be the one thing I would take away from this is we don't know what we don't know yet, and that there's probably quite a bit to be uncovered here that could possibly unroll something even greater. We do not know. But where this starts is where it is right now, which is a settlement plea. And that's the big difference between what CZ did and what Sam Bankman-Fried did, who went to court and challenged the feds, challenged the SEC. And then, of course, the difference of settling it when you go into these kind of federal scenarios, that makes a big difference. And I think it's going to make a big difference for CZ, obviously, with not having to do jail time, or maybe very little jail time. BlackRock, last up, met with SEC officials to discuss spot Bitcoin ETF. This is a big and bullish news. It's kind of interesting on timing, too. November 20th, right here, this was an SEC memo. BlackRock provided a presentation dealing how the firm could do an in-kind or a cash redemption model for its iShares Bitcoin Trust. And it's still unclear if the SEC has responded to the two proposed models. Seifert says, hey, yeah, this is another meeting that they've also tracked. There's a couple of slides in relation to in-kind versus cash creation. But again, makes sense since it's probably the cleanest structure for them and investors at the end. This again gets back to, you're dealing with all these pushbacks or these address questions that come in from the SEC. And if these are applicable, that could easily be proven in court, because remember, this could go to court if they don't get an approval. It looks to me that we're continuing to see the track of an ETF approval for Bitcoin. So I'd love to get you guys' feedback on whether or not you think the Bitcoin ETF is going to happen in December. Remember, we had Mark Moss earlier on this week, picked December 5th. That's a critical date. And then also remember, early January too is the date that many people still think are going to be the case for the ETF. All right, so guys, listen, I know you're getting ready for Thanksgiving, it's going to be a good one for you. I hope you get to spend some time with family and having some great times out there. We're going to be doing another video we hope to drop on Black Friday for you. It'll be a good one. I think you will like it. It's a token video. So make sure and subscribe to the channel. It's the best place to get additional content. And all you have to do is get into our Diamond Circle. You get 2 more podcasts over there. And you also get a lot more of our research, some of our own trading tips that we do on our TA analysis. We have 2 TA analysts that drop stuff over there as well. So it's very easy to do. And of course, if you guys want to catch me out there on X, it's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.